Mike?
No, he's here. You guys are good to go whenever you're ready. It's 7 o'clock. Well, it's 7:01. So.
All righty. Are we waiting for Stephanie? Is she on? I can't
she's
see
here.
everybody
I
on.
am on. Hi, good evening, everybody.
Oh, all right. Hello. All right. So let's get the meeting started today. It's thank you, Noah. Tuesday, March 9th in 2021. We have a couple of items on the agenda today. We have obviously what we do every month. We have the minutes, and we have two applications, one for an area variance and one for a use variance, pardon me. They are ZB 21-01-1 for 76 North Chestnut. The applicant is the Village of New Paltz. We also have a use variance, ZB 21-01-2, again for 76 North Chestnut. I believe they're represented here by Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
Good evening, everybody.
Stephanie, what we usually do is open up the applications, and as the village attorney to this, can you kind of walk us through
Yes,
it is that we're looking at?
Absolutely.
Okay, how about we start with the use variance first?
Sure. That's what I would like to start with. So perfect. Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephanie Tunick. I am one of the village attorneys, and the village thanks you for hearing our applications for this evening. As a general matter and a general background for this is kind of a unique application. One, obviously, because it's the Village of New Paltz, asking the Village of New Paltz ZBA to grant variances. But two, the significance of this application, and as I'll note later on, the application to the factors that you'll all have to look at when deciding on whether or not to grant the variances, deals with the historic significance of the home that's located on this lot. I know the mayor provided a cover letter that describes the home and historical significance, both to the village history, the Hudson Valley region, and the state. And I'll just kind of go through that. So the construction on this home began in 1885. The contractor on the home was an African-American name by the name of Jacob Wynkoop, who was a Civil War veteran and one of the first African-American landowners in New Paltz. He was commissioned to build a home by Ann Oliver, the widow of Richard Oliver, who was also an African-American soldier serving in the Civil War and unfortunately died of malaria when he returned back to his home of New Paltz. The village is committed to preserving the history of its residents, especially memorializing the contribution that the African-American community has had in both establishing the village of New Paltz and also in fighting the Civil War. By preserving this home, the village, wishes to preserve the history of the Oliver family, as well as Mr. Wynkoop, who has built a few homes in the New Paltz area, and in turn wishes to build a lasting sense of honor and respect for these individuals as well, and their greater contribution to history. So first and foremost, we're here because of the history associated with the site, but administratively, we are here because the Village of Planning Board resolution of approval for this underlying subdivision, which occurred on January 19th of this year. There, the applicant sought a subdivision, which created the lot that we are currently speaking of, and that applicant was the Stewart Shop. So they sectioned off this parcel, which is 2,465 square feet or so, and the remainder of it is going to stay with the Stewart Shop. The specific condition, number 3 of the resolution of approval by the Village Planning Board states that in the event that the village transfers ownership of parcel 2 and/or parcel 2 is no longer used for municipal historic preservation purposes, variances shall be required for all zoning nonconformities. So here we are, the village is seeking to transfer the property to a responsible and financially capable owner who is able to restore the premises to its former glory, and in turn work with the village in keeping it a historic site. So to that, going through the use variance, I'll start with Number one, as in the use is not self-created. As I explained, Stewart's was the applicant that had applied for the subdivision, which was then granted by the planning board of January 19th of this year. The village is not yet the owner, but we're hoping to acquire the property as a gift, as a donation. And due to the fact of us not being the owner previously, we weren't really, of course, afforded the opportunity to make sure that the use was not discontinued within that 180-day period that the village code requires. We were hopeful that, you know, if we were the owners, we would have obviously been cognizant of that and would have upheld it, but that period has lapsed, so that is why it's not a pre-existing non-conforming use. Number two, reasonable financial return. In this particular instance, the financial return is really the historic value that is gained with preserving the property and the site. The only way to preserve its value in terms of the historic preservation is to convey it as a single family home as being required by the planning board. And by not obtaining a use variance, unfortunately, we cannot transfer the ownership. If we can't transfer the ownership to a financially capable and responsible buyer, we sadly feel that this property will eventually come into disrepair. The 2020-2021 village budget has only, $8,300 for historical properties. That this house is in way more need of that, and to really do it justice would require a much larger financial contribution. So again, if the home was demolished, the historic value is lost. And anyway, the lot would still remain non-conforming due to some other zoning requirements. Typically, if you look to the parking requirements, they're strict in this section of the code of this district. And we believe it's so small that parking wouldn't be able to be established for any of the other potential uses. So we submit with that the purpose of the historical significance is really not only the least amount of impact for the land, but would not garner a reasonable financial return in this instance. 3, the essential character. Many homes in this area are of the same architecture and style as this home, and as hopefully this home will be preserved as. Nearby this property is the village's historic district, so this property offers a nice tie between the nearby historic district and now this more coming downtown business district. And number 4, with the property being unique, I believe that, and the village submits that the property is really the definition of being unique. There is not another Ann Oliver home in the village to preserve. By this property is again the historic district, which will keep everything together. And there are only a handful of other active residential homes in the NBR zone. But because they are active, and I can check with Corey if this will help the board and their decisions, but because they're active, I'm assuming they either have a variance or a pre-existing non-conforming use because they haven't lapsed that time period. But there's only a handful of residential, active residential homes left in this zone. So that's a use variance. I don't know if the board would like to discuss that one first. I can answer any question, and then I can move to the use variance part.
Does anybody have any questions for Stephanie about that? Okay, all right, Stephanie.
I have a question, actually. I'm sorry, I was muted. Is there any room for any parking on that plan?
Let me see if I have a site plan. I don't know if there is. Like I said, it is small, and I don't know the parking dimensions that are required offhand. I don't know if I have a site plan on me. I can ask the building inspector for his opinion on that. Obviously, if there's anything that's going to be done substantially to this, the new owner would have to follow code and potentially have to go to the planning board for site plan approval anyway. So that would be an issue dealt with at that point. But just generally speaking, I believe the code. some of the other uses, fires. I saw it was something like 300, like a parking spot for every 300 square feet for retail space. There was many requirements with regard to parking, but I can get an answer for you if at least one spot can be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to envision, you know, if someone's going to want to build that into a house that they're going to use, if there's nowhere to park, then that street, you can't park on that street. And,
Mhm.
you know, in the winter, you can't park there either. So I'm trying to envision what that house would become, because if you know, your pool of applicants of who's going to want to live in a house with no parking of a 3-bedroom house with like that size is going to be pretty, I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to wrap my head around that.
I'm trying, there's a driveway. I'm trying to remember if there's a driveway there, but to Stephanie's point, any new owner would simply, you know, have to just apply for possibly a variance if that lot area wasn't big enough to accommodate a driveway, or if it infringed on a setback or whatever that would need to be done. Stephanie's point, Sean, I think that would have to be applied for by the people taking the property over.
Yeah, I've been to the site. Everything's very overgrown. The house, as we know, is just in great disrepair. But I'm almost 100% positive that there's like a gravel driveway if you're facing the home, sort of to the right. But a lot of that has just been grown over because, you know, roots and grass just taking over the space. So, Sean, I believe, you know, if it does convert to a home, it could be, there is that potential for a driveway in that section.
Stephanie, could you clarify what the property was last used for?
That I actually do not know. I can ask. I know, so.
I believe it was the last use, and sorry to jump in there, but it's my understanding that it was a single family home, and it's been a single family home pretty much forever. It's now obviously fallen into a state of disrepair. And there's this provision in the code, which Stephanie had mentioned earlier, that allows basically if you have a non-conforming use, and it's continued, it's not abandoned for, I think, 180 days, it could still be continued, even though it's no longer permitted by the zoning code. But here, the zoning got changed so that the home is now in the NBR zone where single family homes aren't permitted, but it's never been used for anything else. It's just really a product of that lapsing of time and in between at some point when the home fell into disrepair.
Thank you for clarifying that, Ashley.
Okay, any,
I can confirm.
okay. Noah, Mike, any more questions?
Yeah, I did notice in the application that you guys did state that the goal, or that the potential buyers could be used for a residence, but have you guys considered, does Historic Huguenot or SHPO have any interest in acquiring this property?
So my understanding is that I don't want to get the incorrect historic group involved, but I do believe it is Historic Huguenot that is interested in possibly looking into the home after renovation is complete. My understanding is, and I can confirm with the mayor, that at this time, they also do not have the funds to take it on at this point, but can in the future. Notably, and I had put this in the application, the MBR district does allow cultural, I don't know, not building, but a cultural area or, you know, site to be a permitted use. So it could very well be that after the transfer and after the renovation is completed, that this is taken on by a historic group and is actually turned into a permitted use. That's all open at this point.
But you're saying that this property cannot transfer title without having a variance for a single family home use.
Right, per the planning board resolution.
Okay.
So I think it's so the property can transfer to the village.
Right.
If the village were to be able to undertake this historic preservation itself, because if it would be a municipal purpose where the village would be exempt from their own zoning. But in this scenario, the village is unable to do that, so they're seeking to transfer it to someone, a private person that's able to rebuild, restore the home with taking into consideration all those historic elements, but also it's no longer going to be then owned by the village. It would no longer be exempt from the village zoning. So that's why, in order to be able to secure, I think that transfer, they're trying to accomplish that, get the variances before doing so, so that it can be transferred without the person, potentially not being able to do what they need to do there.
Correct.
If that's,
But it's possible that this won't actually be a single family home. That somebody could come in and say, I want to build a museum, or I want to build a community center, or I want something that is not a single family home purpose. Is that fair to say?
Right. I believe at this time, so there is an RFP out right now that the mayor has drafted, and I understand that it is out. I think they are taking all applications and seeing which one is going to fit best with preserving, long-term preservation and the restoration. So it is possible. I don't think that I know that the village is not looking for it to become a use that would cause it to lose its historic value.
Is there a reason is there a reason that we don't want to or shouldn't delay a decision here until there's clarity on who will be selected by the village to take over the property?
I would say two parts to that. Yes, number one, because making sure that it has at least the least amount of variances already applied for and the property is ready to go is more attractive to potential persons that wish to buy it and renovate it. And also number two, in speaking with the mayor today, the village is very concerned about the state of the property. It's been a hard winter. As member Zip had mentioned, it is getting overgrown, and we're the building inspector and the mayor are concerned with the structural integrity, which is another reason you could say the village could look into grant applications and grant opportunities, but it's the time here is non-existent, because if somebody doesn't come in very soon, we're very concerned about the home not being able to be upheld.
I understand, Stephanie. I agree with that 100%. I think that it has to move kind of quickly. Let's face it, the home is in severe disrepair. I think you guys actually being kind to it. I can't see any owner coming in and having and it being worse. I mean, it can collapse. So I think it can only go up. So I think to facilitate this, to move in that direction is I think the way to go. It's in such disrepair that any owner's coming in, it has to improve the property. There's just no other way for it to go.
Yeah, and I'd add to that. Oh, sorry, Tony.
Let's go ahead. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'd add to that too that Trustee Murray is here, and he was one of the ones who helped facilitate this, acquisition from Stewart's, because Stewart's actually owned the home, and we were able to sort of save it, if you will, and to preserve, the history of it. So we got lucky that Stewart's was kind enough to grant us this and sell it to us for $1, and just be able to have the opportunity to preserve it instead of just bulldozing it, which was the original plan for Stewart's.
Does anyone have any more questions on the area variance that Steph's taking us through?
That's the use variance, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No? Okay. Stephanie, why don't you take us through the area variance then?
Yes, absolutely. So in submitting the area variance, there became a preliminary issue that I wanted to bring to the board's attention and will affect your decision ultimately on said variance. The mayor had recently brought to our attention that the legislative intent when adopting local law number 17 of 2018, which is the most recent district regulations for the MBR district, one of the things that was discussed at that time was removing the minimum lot variance. So the minimum lot variance at that time was seen as unnecessary because of the increases in the stricter bulk requirements, including the parking requirements. So the intent, according to the mayor, and I can get a letter or however the board wishes to proceed after this in terms of preserving the record, but they had intended on removing the minimum lot size. Now, due to nothing less than really an administrative hiccup, the Schedule B was never updated when the 2018 district regulations were adopted. So the village has been aware of this. Actually, at their joint meeting tomorrow, they plan on discussing making those amendments to the Schedule B so that it matches the rest of the district regulations. But as it reads now, if you go through the Schedule B, not only the district regulations of the NBR has removed the minimum lot size, but there are other parts of the Schedule B that also do not match that district regulation. For example, the maximum stories is listed in the Schedule B as being 4, and the maximum feet in height of being listed as 50. But the district regulations say that the maximum is 3 stories and that it should be no greater than 35 feet for a main portion, allowing up to 40 feet in height for peaked roofs. So based on the legislative intent and the clear inaccuracies that are in this outdated Schedule B, we believe that the ZBA should look at the more recently adopted district regulations when reviewing the bulk requirements and decide that a minimum lot size variance is not required. Like I said, I can get a letter to the mayor to speak to this, put it in the record for the public hearing. Also, if anything is needed from the building inspector with regards to how he interprets the district regs, but it's our position coming from, persons on the board at the time of the 28 amendments that the Schedule B currently on the E code is actually outdated.
Yes, Stephanie, I think that we should have a letter from the mayor to record, just in case, years go by. We should have something, we should have as much documented on this as possible from the mayor, and even if the building inspector wants to chime in, it should be put into the file.
Sure.
So if I could just comment on that too, perhaps it might be appropriate to ask the building inspector I don't think he's made a formal interpretation on that, and he might determine that an area variance isn't required, and then that part of the application wouldn't need to be before the board. But I think so not to hold anything up, the board could still perhaps, when we get to that point later, set a public hearing both for the use variance and then also for the interpretation and, if necessary, the area variance. That way they could all be scheduled together for the following meeting, but it might be in between now and then that the need for the area variance might be resolved by the building department.
Yeah, actually, I absolutely agree with you. I definitely think that more should be noticed so that it doesn't hold up the process, and anything else can be dealt with in the interim. I am ready and prepared to go through the area variance factors with you folks for the purpose of, going through the complete application. And if you decide that no, you want to go with the Schedule B regulations, then we can do that. It's up to the board.
I'm fine. I don't think that that's really necessary. What do you guys think, Sean, Mike, Noah? Do you have any opinions?
Muted, John.
No opinion. I'm good.
Same.
Yeah, I have no opinion.
Okay, well, Stephanie, I think whatever facilitates the village's need, the zoning board is more than happy to acquiesce with it and go down that route.
Thank you, Chair, and we very much appreciate that. In closing, I always like to go to the overall zoning plan of the village. And I just wanted to note some specific instances in the comprehensive master plan of the village that specifically points to the village's wishes to enhance and protect historic areas. So the 1994 comp plan lists its goals as goal number 2 is to protect and enhance the drawing power of the village's commercial and historic areas. Goal number 4 lists that it protecting the village's important historic sites, structures, and features and promote tourism development that is based upon its nationally recognized importance. In the historic preservation summary section, it says that the village should protect the village from historically destructive renovation, incompatible new architecture, or unnecessary demolition. And the building code summary states that the village should consider exempting historic buildings from stringent health and building codes that have the effect of preventing or hindering preservation or restoration work. So with that, I say that certainly the comprehensive plan is another document that supports this application and would support you granting the use variance and, if necessary, an area variance. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions specifically for Stephanie? I'll start with Sean if you have any. Okay, Sean, are you on mute or?
I'm on mute, but I'm trying to be fast about it. So no questions.
Okay, Noah, do you have any questions for Stephanie?
Nope, no further questions. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Mike, any questions?
Nope, no questions. Thank you.
Okay, so Stephanie, our next steps here is with all variances, whether use variance or area variances, to set a public hearing for our next meeting. I'd like to do it for our next meeting if that's okay. Alana, can I have the date for the next meeting?
Yeah, let me look. It is April 13th. Yeah.
Okay.
Tony, not to belabor the point here, but it's been pretty clear that this is emergent in terms of the village's perspective on the state of the building and its disrepair. Does it make sense for us to think about trying to do a public hearing sooner, or is that not something that we do?
Well, we have our meetings are monthly, so I mean, we could have an emergency meeting, but there's certain, Ashley, refresh my memory, there's a certain amount of time that has to be put in. So the
Yes,
public.
so you could always schedule a special meeting of the board, including a special meeting to have a hearing. Alana, is it 10 days that your notice is required?
Yeah, it's 10 days. And then so the paper has to be noticed too.
Okay, so.
And that has to be like, I think at least 5 days in advance for the paper, and then 10 days for mailings and for the sign to be posted in front of the property. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
So,
Okay, so I guess Stephanie, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ashley.
so I guess if there was enough time
I'm
to do that,
just
all
do the
would be-
math.
Alana, was it usually like 2 weeks before the hearing, or I just don't, the paper is published weekly, right? So
yeah. So I have to notice the paper. I have to email the paper on Monday, and then it's published in the Wednesday.
the following Wednesday.
Yeah,
We
the
can vote.
same week.
We can have the meeting next week and vote yes or no on it right then and there, right after we.
No, well,
No.
no, because you need to be able to notice the meeting in the paper, and property owners within a certain distance have to be notified too. So that all needs to occur
Right.
10 days before the public hearing.
Yeah, but
So-
we could have the public hearing next month and.
Oh,
and then
next
vote
month.
it.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I thought you
Vote
said
on
to
and
have it
you
next
vote
week. I
mean,
misheard. I'm sorry.
that's pretty fast as far as we usually go. You know?
Well, we always schedule for the next month.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, I mean, we could move it up a week. Is that really going to make it there? I'd rather have our normal monthly Tuesday meeting.
Yeah.
Is provided that we give the public enough time to go through everything. I mean, we could possibly move it up. You got 15 days at a minimum plus a Tuesday meeting. I mean, it's not going to really. Do you need the extra? Does the village feel that they need us to vote on this 12 days ahead of time, 10 days ahead of time?
I know in speaking with the mayor today, he wants to get the process moving as soon as possible. And I do appreciate the board considering moving the public hearing up. I will leave it up to the members of the board to decide if that's appropriate for this, and if that is something that's going to work, and logistically speaking. But I would say that we would prefer it sooner if possible.
Bill, do you
Well,
have?
I'm just looking at the calendar now, and so March is one of those months where we do have a 5th week. So typically there's no municipal meetings scheduled for that 5th week. So if, depending on availability, I mean, I know my availability should be clear that last week, either the 29th, 30th, or
I was thinking
31st.
maybe the 30th. Let me check the village calendar and make sure there's nothing interfering
Bill,
on
I
that.
wonder if you had an opinion on this.
Who, me?
No, Bill Murray.
Oh,
Yes, thanks. Sure, the sooner the better. You know, we've been working on this for months and seems to be dragging along just by nature of the process, but sooner the better. If you can do it in 2 weeks, great.
Alana, we would need to check. I think now, just looking at the calendar, the earliest would be like Ashley was saying, sometime around the last week of March.
yeah. I feel
But
like the 30th is feasible if members can make that meeting, and we can just do it at 7, because I would need to notice the paper to say that there's a special meeting in addition to noticing the public hearing notice. But then I think that would be enough time.
So we would do a
Seems we're
meeting.
doing a lot to get 7 days, though. Like, we're only gonna get, if we have another meeting, we're only gonna be 7, but how many days earlier is that
So
gonna be?
actually, the meeting in April is not till the 13th.
Yeah, it's the second Tuesday, so.
So it would be like 2 weeks early, 2 weeks earlier.
Hey, Alana, can't you notice this in the Freeman?
I could, but no one looks at the Freeman, so I'd prefer to use, like, the Freeman is technically paper of record, but I know that people read the New Paltz Times more than they do the Daily Freeman, so it just, in terms of making our best effort to notice the public, I think using the New Paltz Times is preferable. But
Our new meeting.
what'd you
They would have-
say?
Public would also have to be appraised of our new zoning board meeting date.
Yeah, I'd have to do both. I would be noticing both. That it's a special meeting and that there's a public hearing. And I would also post that on Facebook and on the website. And
All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a motion to hold.
Wait. What day are you talking about doing this optional thing?
the 30th.
Okay, that's right in the middle of Easter vacation. So just letting you know that might be a problem for some people, because most people have off that week.
If 3 of you can make it, that's a quorum, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just I mean, now that we're doing things virtually, I can be on vacation and still do it. Like, I could be in Arizona right now and be doing this. But I'm just letting you know that's that might upset some people.
Oh, you're talking about in terms of the public being able to attend.
Yeah, you know, you tell the public that, yeah, we're pushing forward this meeting, and the only time we can schedule it is when you're on vacation. That's going to sound, even to me, that sounds nefarious. So
Yeah.
just,
Ashley, is there a certain amount of time that we have to give the community in regards to a public hearing? Do they need it? What is the amount of time that they need? I'm just concerned that we meet that guideline, whether they can make it or not. Again, it's a virtual meeting, so there's a lot of advantages. I just want to make sure that we give the community the proper time.
So, sorry, I believe, Alana, you said it was 10 days for mailings and the publication, or was it 5 days? So that's really the only time period, Tony. It's that you have to have it published within that 10-day period, and also the mailings have to be sent to all the adjacent property owners within that 10-day period, 10 days
Okay.
prior to the meeting. So again, the month of March is longer, you know, the way the weeks fell and the way your meetings fell. So there is that extra week. It's, you know, the board also always accepts written comments when Alana notices the meeting. She always says that you could submit in writing as well. It's really up to the board.
Straw poll. Is there anybody here who could not, for any reason, and it's absolutely fine if you can't, but how does March 30th look for the members of the board? If there's is there an issue? Will we make sure we have a quorum?
It's 2 days before the state budget's due. I might be a little busy.
yeah, a lot depends on, I haven't figured out what we're doing for vacation that week. So I'm just like, I mean, I'm assuming that I'm going to be in a place where there's Wi-Fi, so I can probably make it. But like I said, I'm just worried about scheduling this is really strange. Like, everything we're talking about here is really strange. And to then make it even more strange by doing it during a vacation week on a
We've
thing?
had,
It just seems to me.
we've had though bi-monthly meet. We've had this. I mean, we've had meetings between meetings.
Okay.
On a few occasions. Not completely uncommon.
Yeah, I don't think that that's strange at all. I mean, that happens a lot. A lot of municipalities, you know, you have to, when you meet once a month too, a lot of boards meet twice a month. So this board always meets once a month. So when sometimes, you know, there is a need for a special meeting at times, as far as, you know, it being a week where people might have off or be away. I mean, that's, like you said, it is a virtual meeting. It's not, you know, I don't think anything is strange about the timing of that, because that could be just the meeting, you know, if your normal board meeting falls during a week where it's, you know, a holiday week, that happens, you know, all the time. It's just how things roll there. But
Michelle, are you aware of anyone in the public who's like aware of this, that people that might be concerned or anything, just to take the temperature? Do you know?
No, honestly, I had to look at the calendar to see what vacation week we're talking about, because it's just not something I celebrate. So, but it's not a holiday itself, the Tuesday the 30th. So
Easter's on the 4th, so most schools have off before it this year. Not all schools, but most schools have off before.
okay, my kids are home every day, so I guess that's why I didn't pay attention. We are remote schooling, so yeah, I mean, I don't see I personally don't see there being an issue for that week. Village board happens to not meet that week, but we meet the week before. It just happens to fall that way. But yeah, I mean, with COVID, I think a lot of people aren't taking vacations, and I think you know, if people who do want to tune in, you could, like you said, you could tune in from almost everywhere. But I like what Tony said, just taking everyone's temperature, see if, you know, like a vote of who can potentially commit, to see if you would have quorum.
We're going to go beyond the temperature. Now, here's what I'm going to ask for. I'm going to ask for a motion to schedule a meeting on March 30th. Or, I mean, if I don't get that motion, then we don't vote. If I do get that motion, we'll have a vote. And if you don't want to meet on that day, then, or you can't meet on that day for whatever reason, then vote appropriately, and we'll decide how that works. So with that said, can I get a motion to have an emergency meeting scheduled for March 30th?
it would actually, it wouldn't be an emergency meeting, it would be a special meeting, just to.
It could just be nomenclature. Okay, I'll
make a motion to have a special meeting on March 30th.
Second.
we'll call it, yeah. Can I get a motion to see if we can schedule a special meeting for March 30th of the zoning board?
Yes, I've made a motion.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. We'll go through this one by one.
I don't believe the meeting was seconded. The motion was seconded.
Second.
I thought I heard Mike say that. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
I missed that thing.
Okay, all in favor, Mike,
Aye.
Noah,
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Okay, I'm an aye. So Alana, let's put that on the calendar then for March 30th. So with that said, then
March
next-
30th, right?
March 30th, it's a Tuesday.
And it'll be at 7?
It'll be, yes, 7 o'clock, same time, unless anybody again has an immediate concern.
I just wonder, Ashley, should we clarify, or should I clarify in making the motion that I'm making this motion because the building is in a big state of great disrepair, and moving faster is desirable for everybody involved?
There's no need. I mean, that's now, you know, you've been stated, that's been talked about, but there's no, you could set a special meeting for any
reason.
any purpose or no purpose. There's some timelines for notice. It usually has to be 72. You know, there's certain notice requirements if it's set 72 hours before the meeting, but if not, you know, sometimes things that are emergencies do pop up, but I think that's good to give context.
Yeah, that's in the minutes. I
As
like
to why it's
forgetting that
been-
the houses. Yeah.
Thank you, Alana.
Yeah.
this is going to be one public hearing, or should we have a public hearing in relation to both the area and the use variance? So should I ask for two public hearings, one for each, or do we just lump it all together?
So I believe, and Alana, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when you have two related applications, you will hold the public hearings together.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what we did with the last area variance. It was like two variances for the same property. And I think I just put them on the same notice, but I put on the notice that they're technically two different variances. But again, there's a chance here that it will end up being just the one variance. So maybe just make a motion for both variances and then.
So I think it would be, so that's right, because it's a little unique here, because if the building inspector between now and then determines that an area variance is not required, then that part of the application is no longer going to be relevant. If the building inspector determines that one is required, it's my understanding that's being appealed then to this board's being asked to interpret otherwise. So I think, and Stephanie, is that correct? Is that?
I think that would be the best course, just to cover everything so that we notice everything now, and then proceed accordingly.
So it would be a motion for a public hearing on the use variance application, area variance, and or interpretation. And if we could then, even perhaps if you speak to the building inspector and get something, his decision on that in the next week before the meeting's even noticed, we'll be able to clarify that. That way it's clear for the public what exactly is being requested.
I will bug him tomorrow.
I will also.
Okay, so then just to specify, so I'm going to ask for a public hearing on ZB 21-01-2, which is the use variance, and then ZB 21-01-1, which is the area variance. And I guess if the building inspector feels that we don't need one for the area variance, it really wouldn't matter. We've got it just would simply fall by the wayside. Am I correct, Stephanie? It wouldn't really, if we don't need one, we had a public hearing on the docket for it, but if we don't need it, we just don't pursue it.
Right, you just wouldn't open, well, I will let your counsel speak, but my understanding is you just wouldn't have to open the public hearing.
Just open up the other, right, exactly. Just open up the one for if we need it, the ZB 21-01-2, the use variance. That's all we'd use. That's all we'd open.
So perhaps the best way to do it is then a motion for a public hearing on ZB 21-01-2. That's the use variance. And if required on 21-01-1.
Okay, so can I get a motion for a public hearing on March 30th at 7:00 to have a public hearing for ZB 21-01-2, which is a use variance for 76 North Chestnut Street, and possibly, if required, an area variance for ZB 21-01-1, also for the same address, 76 North Chestnut Street. I need some motion for that, please. Thank you, Mike. Can I get a second? Thank you, Sean. All in favor? Aye. Just go straight. Aye.
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 Okay, Alana, so we have a public hearing set for those two, possibly both applications for March 30th. And that would conclude your end of it, Stephanie. Does anybody have any final quick questions while we have Stephanie on the line? Because we have some administrative business that we need to attend.
So I just have a couple of comments on as far as seeker and the referral to Ulster County.
Right, I forgot about the seeker. Go ahead, I read that.
So for seeker, it would be an unlisted action. And what we could do is I could prepare a proposed EAF Part 2 for your consideration at that next meeting. And a determination of significance, which looks like a negative declaration based on what's been submitted here. And then as far as referral to the county, and Stephanie, if you jump in if you disagree or think otherwise, but under the agreement with Ulster County Planning Board for the exemptions. The area variance application, if it's required, is going to be exempt as a area variance for residential lot size with central water and sewer available. And then it appears the use variance application is also exempt under that agreement, so long as there's no physical expansion of structures, utilities, or facilities necessary, and or the use variance does not occur on a vacant lot. So the lot's not vacant here, and the buildings, existed. It's not being, nothing's being expanded or modified as far as this application goes. So that means both would then be exempt.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Any further updates or questions for these particular variances from anyone? Okay, thank you, Stephanie. You're more than welcome to stay. We just have some administrative business that we're going to go through real quickly, and then that would probably conclude our meeting for tonight. But thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, all of you. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, Stephanie. Okay, guys, we'll move on to the second item of business, which is our administrative business. And has everybody had a chance to look at the January 12th, 2021 minutes?
Yes.
I'd like to get them approved and into the record. So can I please have a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th, 2021?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 12th, 2021.
Can someone please,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so those minutes are now in the record. I see here we have approval of the escrow closure for ZB 20-02. Is everybody familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns before I ask for a motion to put that into the record?
No.
Okay, can I please get a motion to put the approval of the escrow closure for ZB 20-02 into the record?
Sure. I make a motion to do that.
Can I get a second?
Aye.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's in the record. Alana, we have some village board updates, or Michelle, are you still on? You have some village board updates for us?
Yeah, hi. Well, I wanted to just remind everybody, in case you didn't know, that we have an election coming up for 2 trustee seats on the village board. That election day is May 4th, and if anyone is interested in running, you have to just collect 70 signatures by March 30th. So I think if you're interested, you have plenty of time to get 70 signatures. And, for anyone watching, as well as anyone here, if there's any interest, I'm happy to direct you to the website where all the information is. It's on our villageofnewpaltz.org. Lots of info there for that. I think with COVID, there hasn't been the same amount of chatter about the upcoming election. So just wanted to get it on everyone's radar. And that was probably one of the most important things, but lots of things going on in the village. The Ann Oliver House is a huge one. So thank you for seeing the urgency in that and moving that along. We're hoping to get some great preservation of it. And other things we're considering is one way on Huguenot Street, looking for a lot of public input there. And that's what we're gathering. We keep the public hearings open, especially for a long time because of COVID, just to give people opportunity to chime in on things like that.
That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Is that everything, Michelle? Is there anything else?
I could probably go on for hours, but I think that's good.
I'm just going to slide over to Ashley real quick and ask her if she's got anything that she should bring up at the meeting.
Nope, nothing for me.
Alana, is there anything that you want to inform the group of? Are we good?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Oh,
So then
I
when I like-
actually have a question. I am taking my state government sexual harassment training next Friday. Will that count towards this?
Yes.
The training that we need?
Is
Yeah,
the governor giving it to you? Because that's really critical for
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I wish he would be fired if he listened to the own training that we state employees have to see.
You know that counts, Mike. You just send it to Alberta, but you can also send it to me and I can send it to her. That's fine.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. That's good stuff too. All right, so may I please have a motion to then close the zoning board of approvals March 9th, 2021 meeting?
Moved.
Seconded.
Can I get it? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
All right, everyone. Thanks for all your participation and help. As always, you guys are we're getting sharper and sharper at this. Have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you on March 30th.
safe travels, Tony.
Thank you. Have fun in
Aye.
Arizona.
Thank you, Noel.